I want to talk to you about a new title block that we're going to be using on these new test projects. It will look very similar to the title blocks that you're used to seeing, but it does work a little differently and it is edited a little differently. So I want to just take you through the features and how to work with this new title block. The first thing you'll notice is when you click on it, it is actually being called a sheet border. It is no longer just a symbol. And you'll also notice that it is locked in place. It is stuck to that corner and it cannot be moved. The second thing to know is to edit the title block, you need to double click on the title block, which will bring up the title block editing. So you no longer have to look here in the data tab. All the title block information is controlled by double clicking. You'll see in this dialog box there are 3 categories here. Project data will affect all title blocks in the project, so this is information that is consistent across all title blocks. And sheet data is data that is specific to just this sheet. And then in the general tab, you'll see the sheet title and the sheet number. And we'll talk about that in a second. So here we have a date override, file name, drawn by, page number, revision number, and check by. Here you'll see the sheet number and the sheet title, but I want you to ignore the sheet number because one of the special things about this title block is that it inherits the sheet number from the sheet number settings on the sheet layer. So these two are linked. You'll see if I actually change it here, let's make sure I change it to something that doesn't exist. If I change it here, you'll notice they stay coordinated, and that is true. If I change this to 612, you'll see the sheet has now also changed itself to 612. The sheet name is also linked, but only the top line. So you'll see that the title block inherits the top line from the sheet title, and then we have 2 additional lines that we can add. So again, if we hop into the general settings, if we just want to call this door schedule and we want nothing below, or we can say a new test as a second line just for demonstration purposes, you'll see that the sheet title has been changed over here as well as here. So that's one of the first auto-coordinating aspects of this title block. A couple of the other things is you'll notice there isn't a date field. That is because right now we have the title block set to automatically update the date anytime you print. So we have this print time down in the corner, and right now this date field that will just simply put the day that this page is printed there automatically. This will not affect issue date. If for whatever reason you need to print a sheet with a different date than the date that you are printing it, you will see a date override field. So you'll see this date override, and if I put 12/17, 2016, you will see that that is simply just a text record that sits on top of the actual date and will hide. The tricky thing about that is you have to remember to erase that in the future so that the standard date takes over. If that's forgotten about, it could be an issue. So you just go back in there, let's see, just double click, and we can erase that, and now the current date is shown. The other big difference of this title block is how issues are handled. If I click here, you will see I can edit issue data. So if I hop into this dialog box, I can add an issue. It's going to give it issue, let's use numbers. It's going to add the next one, issue 1, and we'll call it 50% DD not for construction. And we see now that that adds that issue there. Obviously, that would be pretty laborious if I had to go through and add that to all title blocks. So what Vectorworks has is the issue manager, which can be found in the file issue manager. And here we can add issues across many title blocks at the same time. You'll notice that this issue manager has a similar look to the sheet border manager. So again, we can edit some of that project-wide data from this dialog box. And then we can also edit sheet data. And what this is showing us is whatever sheet we are, which you can look down here, what sheet we are on. It's a little confusing because it is not this sheet here that we selected. It is showing us the sheet that it is editing. And then it will have the issue data. So let's say we want to do an issue 5 on 12/29. Issue note, let's do 100% CD for construction. So I'm also going to want to change this not for construction to 100% CD. And then with this issue thing, I can either record this on all check sheets only or on all sheets. So let's say not every one of these pages is going to be released here. I can go back to the sheet data and we have this previous next, and we can go through and simply check the pages. I want to include it on A000. I want to include it on A001. Let's say I don't want to include it on A002. And I do want to include it on DM, just for example. I press OK. We should see several things change. We can see that that issue has been added. The sheet title has been changed. That is global, so you'll see all pages now have inherited that, whether or not they had the issue. And we see that 5 has simply been put on the top of the most recent issue for the page. So if the page has been issued more than once, this list will just simply crawl up. If this is the first issue of the page, it will sit appropriately, as we see here. So this way we no longer have to deal with waiting out issues that aren't appropriate for the page. We can just simply keep track of every time a particular page interset is issued. That is the basics. Please, if you have any questions about how to use this new title block, let me know. If you have any suggestions on how to improve it, that would also be great. Thanks.